Hey y'all, it's Elisha and welcome back to Elisha's Crafty Hoplop. If you're new here, well, you had a really interesting experience with my earlier video today. You also had a really joyful one because you got to see many creations I've received over the last year and a half and how blessed I've been by the makers. You only saw a fraction of what I have. A fraction. I had actually pulled out more than twice that amount to show you. You're probably right. Some of you said it's the professor in you. The visual aids I knew would help. I tried. We left out categories, y'all. I'm just going to be clear about that. And sorry, welcome back to my regular folks. Welcome back to you as well. I just want to explain to people that are new to the channel and maybe new to YouTube that that video was very unusual, 32 minutes in length and super detailed. I had actually pulled out twice as many things to show you. You have no idea how many things were around me. But I also left out categories. So I want to be honest about that. I didn't do steampunk, and that's just because there aren't that many crafters that do steampunk. And I also have only ever been sent 2 examples of steampunk. 2 in my entire time because, and in fact, one of the funkiest ones I've ever seen was created by Jellybean Junction. And I know that's insane, but I'm going to put a link to it down below if I can find it because it was done a really long time ago. But Jellybean created this incredible steampunk piece, even though she's shabby. So that's what I was careful about. I wrote to Heather, my friend Heather's Handmade Haven this morning saying, I pulled out your stuff and I realized I don't know how to explain what you do. Because Heather clean crafts. She was the inventor of the chunky pocket letter. And y'all remember? Do you remember this? I took it off my wall today for you. I did, so you could see it. Oh yeah, that's mixed media shabby. That's a blend of mixed media and shabby. That's a phenomenal example of blending those 2 styles. But you see, I thought that would just make it even more confusing. I was going to show you Anna, who is Heart to Hand. She's such a great crafter. And she made me that beautiful stationery box, y'all. And I have it here. Hold on. Or did I put it away already? No, I put it away. I put it away already. No, I didn't. It's right here. I've been putting them away slowly. Okay, this is Prima paper. Prima paper traditionally is counted as shabby paper. That's how most people see it. And that's going to surprise some of you, especially if you look at the Prima surfboard collection. You're like, really? That shabby? But Prima paper traditionally, Prima marketing is traditionally shabby. Even that collection could be made shabby. It's just on that clean side of shabby that we talked about, right? That more shabby chic side. Heart to Hand Creations, Anna, who has been rather unwell, and that's why you haven't seen her as much on here, but she is a really gifted maker, used the same Prima paper pad that I used for Jellybean Swamp and for Carmen's for part of it. And she is normally a vintage maker. So the reason she used this is for the same reasons that I used this paper pad, because I was making for both Jellybean and Carmen, and one side of it is more vintage and one side of it is shabby. That's the cool thing about Prima. They sometimes release a pad like this where it can be both types of crafting. And so Anna made me this, which is actually a shabby pad used to make a vintage craft. But you see how confusing it can get? So I really had to whittle it down. And I also didn't mention one other thing that's important. Because again, it can be confusing. But sometimes when people send you things, they're not making it in their style. They're making it in your style for you. And so I wanted to show you some examples of that. But then I thought, oh, that's just going to confuse people further. So for instance, I've told y'all, Pat Sweeney is an excellent clean crafter. And she loves fall colors. Right, y'all know this. I've told you this. And I told you, with limited vision, she is a gifted crafter and will always be a better clean crafter than I will be with full vision. But you remember the ATC she made me? That was a chunky dunk. Now, Pat does not do chunky dunks. She did that because she was making it for me. So that's the other thing that happens that can be confusing. You might get a card from someone or a Memdax and you think, well, that doesn't look like their style. And that's because they've tried to make it either out of paper or materials or in a style that they think you'll love. I showed you all that sharing more, clean crafting, tag pocket. Well, normally she wouldn't have used the Maggie, but she did it because she was making it for me. She stayed true to her style, but used different paper. Another person who does this a lot is Tree, and that's why I didn't show you her projects, because when she sends me projects, she deliberately does things knowing that I'm going to love them, like when she made the Maggie Holmes folder for me. She knows I love Maggie Holmes. But if you go on to Craft On's channel, you'll see she does all sorts of crafting, and she uses even other tools differently. But this, when she sends it to me, she tries to do things she knows will bring me joy. And so my crafts from her are not necessarily an accurate reflection of who Tree is as a crafter, except for maybe that original first ever mem deck she sent me with the fluttering butterfly. That's really Tree. But I'll show you again. She did all of the take one, make ones, right? She made all of these. This is some of the best clean crafting. When you did this, Tree, I was like blown away. They're better than the originals, folks. I wish we could order these from Tree, and maybe we can. I was actually thinking about contacting Tree and saying, you know what? Your ephemera is better than everybody else's. You should sell these. Like, you should make your own ephemera and sell it, because we'd all buy it. It's beautiful. But this is not Tree's aesthetic, necessarily. It is and it isn't. It has elements of her. But this super clean, gorgeous crafting that she did was because of that challenge, and she wanted to gift this to me. So what makes this even more confusing is that people then start to know you, and so they want to surprise you, and they'll make you things using elements of your crafting style in their projects, even though their style might be completely different. That's another thing. And the other thing I'm going to say is that I also was careful about not confusing or muddying the waters by talking about, let's say, like Green Tea Road. And she said, yeah, I'm sort of like this, I'm shabby meets clean. Green Tea has a very unique style. I loved so many of the things that she sent me. I've studied them and studied them. But she definitely, she's like Scrapta World in the sense that she is shabby chic elegance, but she has a very distinct style because she does more work, like more altering, yet it's still clean. So that confuses it, and that's why I didn't show it. But I mean, there's all these other things that happen that make this even more complicated. That video was sort of a primer, a way for you to get a general sense. I'm glad it was helpful. I was worried it would make it more confusing, especially when we're talking about people like Crafting Con Cruz, or we're talking about a Susan Tootsie Tucker or a Crafty Michelle or a Miss Sheila, right? And then I found out Domestic Fox, who made that stunning ATC with that dimensional fox, is a little more like you do everything. And that also, and they take the best elements from different things and use them. And that just makes it even more confusing, which is why in my brain, I call them the artful crafters. That's what I call them. I asked Susan today what she calls herself, and she calls herself a little bit of everything, which is a very humble way of saying the same thing I'm saying, because that's Susan Tootsie Tucker. She's super humble for someone, she's only been paper crafting. What did you say, Susan? Like under 2 years, right? Yeah, that woman, you were born to be a creative person. And I mean that sincerely in the most beautiful way. Do you know how blessed we are? Each and every the ATCs taught us something. They taught us something. Each person is unique, and so their creations are unique. So no shabby is the same as another shabby. No clean is the same as another clean. No Maggie is the same as another Maggie. No vintage is the same as another vintage. No girly girl. No steampunk. No two people I did this test. In the Holy Land, I sent out little records to everybody, to 6 people, 6 different makers, and had them make them. And none of them came out the same way. Because we're all individuals, and so are our crafts. And that's what makes this so exciting, I think. That's why I love this. I truly love it because of that. You can put 5 shabby makers in a room and give them this exact same materials, and you'll get completely different projects. The same is true clean crafters. The same is true of Maggie crafters. It doesn't matter what style. We are just all different. And how we use the materials and see them affects how we make. So I hope that was helpful. It was such a difficult thing to do, but I'm so glad that so many of you enjoyed it. I was laughing, waiting for your responses. I want to say to Miss Nadia, I'm so sorry you are in the last round, but I'm going to do yours today individually. Here's something that most of you know who've been with me from the beginning. I don't like to do individual entries, and maybe that's a weakness. I don't know. I got to think about it. I like to do them in groups. I do. I like to do 5 or 6 at a time. I only did the angel cards last night because we'd had five sets come in. Right? I did do Susan's as a kickoff because I didn't expect us to get so many angel cards. But normally for a contest, I like to do them in groups. And I did reveal them in the order in which they were received. So Nadia's right. I did receive hers a month ago. I confirmed that for her. But I didn't. She's in the last grouping. So it must be frustrating being in the last grouping. So I thought at the end of today's video, I'm going to show hers alone. I know that's not what I normally do. And on my channel, I prefer to do them in groups. But I'm going to do it because I think she just wants me to see it. And so I want to honor that. If it ever matters to you that much, and I want to say this, y'all have gotten to know me really well over the last little while. If it really matters to you because you're so excited for me to see it, then email me or text me and tell me that. Like Pat keeps, like, until I got to Pat's, she was like, have you looked at mine yet? I was like, no, because I don't peek. They're in order. I don't peek. I take them out of what the original thing is. I follow the rules, but I don't look at them because I don't want to cheat. I want you to see my first reactions. But if it really matters to you, just email me and tell me that, and I'll pull it out. Because, I'm asking you for patience. We have a lot, not a lot, that's an overstatement. We have some mail that's missing. Either missing or just delayed, or maybe my neighbor has it and she hasn't had time to bring it over. And I know for a fact that those ATCs have been sent and that they're floating in the universe. So I have a few left to do, and I did tell you guys that. But I'm waiting on these others to arrive because I want to do the last grouping together. But poor Nadia, she's been waiting, so I'm going to do hers at the end of today's video. I want to show you one more thing just to make things even more fun and complicated. Y'all know that Donna Dreams, I showed you that shoe. I showed you her ATC. She also made me this amazing coffee book, which is a miniature. And she did that because she made me a bunch of special miniatures for my birthday. They are some of my favorite things ever. Now, she's super shabby, Donna, right? The outside of this tells you, though, that we're in for something different. Look, she did the shabby on the outside. Look at this. There's this gorgeous tassel that I'm in love with, this beaded tassel, how she did that. Ugh, these people who can work with small beads kill me. There's feathers, because I had sent her something from the Holy Land that were like these boa feathers and these charms and the roses. That's the concession to shabby. That and the pink. But this told me I was in for a treat. Donna can do clean crafting just as well as she does shabby. This is clean crafted, y'all. Yep. Does not blow you away? Sorry about the glare. My lighting is not great because I didn't adjust it. Yeah. So you see, people don't stay in their lanes. Donna also can do Maggie. And she mixes Maggie with shabby, which is something I didn't discuss because so few people do it. But Donna does. So nobody really stays in their lanes at all. Before we do Nadia C's ATC, I need one more well-wish and prayer round. ScaryCarrie has gone into the hospital for surgery today. I did not know that. Deb's Chillin' Bags was kind enough to alert me. And it's a spinal surgery and it's very serious. So if we could please have well wishes and prayers for ScaryCarrie, I would really appreciate it. I want her to come out of the hospital or out of the surgery and in recovery, knowing that we wish her well and that we want her to heal well. And I'm going to be checking in over the next couple of days. For those of you that asked, and don't get me started crying, my husband needs surgery, and it's not a simple surgery. They gave him blood thinner today. They're worried he has blood clotting. I have to be careful how much I talk about this because I'm going to start weeping. I did call the embassy to see if I can go. I did. P, don't get mad. I did. Unfortunately, New Yorkers are personas non grata because of what's happening here. Oh, I have to be really, really sorry. If I start crying, forgive me. So, they're not sure they're going to let me into the country. Even they said if I got a letter from his surgeon explaining that he's at risk because of blood clots and a heart condition, they will consider it. But the truth is he needs the surgery fast. And so I bet by the time they're done considering it, they're going to already do the surgery. I'm trying to get there. I am. This is more serious than we originally thought, and I am very worried. But I may not be able to get there. So keep my husband in your thoughts and prayers too, please, today. Whew, sorry. I thought I could do it without crying. I know that those of you who are from military families really understand what this feels like. I know you do. And I appreciate all of you very much for understanding. Your girl's tough. You know, if I can get on that airplane, I'm going to get on it. But they may not let me in. We have some Kawasaki adult cases here in New York that I haven't been talking to you about because I don't want to alarm all of you. And so they really don't want a New Yorker there. And I don't blame them. And they're saying even if I've been careful, which I have been, as you all know, even if I've been wearing gloves every day, 2 pairs and 2 masks, and I've laundered, they say I could still be carrying it and I could still bring it into the country, and they don't have any cases of it. Can't say I blame them. But I want to get there. All right, let's go on to something wonderful and get my mind off of this, y'all. Let's look at Nadia C's ATC. Here we go, y'all. And this is great because this is going to give us a chance to say, what style is this? Okay, so what's wonderful is that Nadia tells us on the back she loves all crafting styles. So she does not self-define in any way. She likes to do it all. Well, this one is super dimensional. The first thing I'm going to tell you is the wood on the back. I know this paper, and Nadia has put her hand right in it. So, and I have to tell you, I'm so impressed with this. The shading is gorgeous on it. She has stained it. She has shadowed it. It's actually gorgeously done. I don't know that my camera is going to let you see all of the detailing. Yeah, you can see some of it. So it's not just stained, y'all. Look, it's also shadowed and shaded. Isn't that remarkable? It's beautifully done. And also, I just want you to know this is beautifully thicked up. And looking at it, it's 2 layers of like chipboard type backing. That's why it's got some good strong heft. This would stand up in a holder beautifully. Then on the corners, we have these amazing metal embellishments. And then what I love that you did, and I took a look just now just to see how you did it, because it's really well done, y'all. So I was like, how'd she do that? Okay, she built a dimensional wreath, an actual 3D wreath. And I like to do those too, but I wanted to see how Nadia did it. And she did hers using like jute twine wrapped twice around in a hard circle, and then layered up and collaged all of these flowers and butterflies. Look at that, y'all. And then, of course, very cleverly alternated. So we have like glittery flowers, non-glittery flowers with a gem center. And then we have a little bit of green leafery. We have is that an organza bow? Yes, it is. Wow, did you tie that yourself? Because that's a beautiful, I think you did. I'm impressed. Organza is tough to tie. That's an organza bow. And then it has this gorgeous little gemmy in the center. And then it says, embrace life. So this one's tough, right? Because it has a lot of vintage elements. The paper and how it's been shaded and distressed is very vintage. And the color palette is very vintage for the paper. It's like that patina. Patina means, like on garden furniture, when you leave it outside and it gets that coppery tone naturally through it. Okay, that's exactly what Nadia C's done to the work. So that's very common in vintage. So it's vintage, but then and the little gemmy in the center of the organza bow is also vintage in nature. But then the wreath is like a more modern floral. So this is an excellent example of vintage meets modern in a way. So it's like a clean vintage. It's beautiful. And it says embrace life. So there you go, y'all. Isn't that something? There we go. It's unbelievable how many variations are None of us are ever going to make the same way. And that's why we love coming on here and watching everybody's project shares and their videos. All right, y'all, please keep ScaryCarrie in your prayers today. And we will also make sure that we check him tomorrow as well as she's recovering. And please keep my husband in your prayers, y'all. This turned out to be way more serious than we originally thought, and I am so worried. Just so terribly worried. Those of you, again, who have either grew up in military families or are part of military families, you know exactly what I'm going through right now. And unfortunately, so do many of you, because of this virus, you have not been able to be there for those that you love when they've had surgeries or medical emergencies or even deaths. And that's incredibly painful. Incredibly painful. But we are getting through this together and with each other's support. And I'm really grateful for that. You may not see me for a while. I might not be back on today just because of this crisis. Forgive me. I'm going to try to get some more adulting done and get the place ready. And I'm going to speak to the embassy again. So your girl might be very busy. If you don't see me tonight, you will see me again tomorrow. All right, y'all. Take real good care. Nadia, thank you very much for that beautiful ATC. Take real good care, y'all. Bye for now.